With a massive internet following ever since the original pilot episode on YouTube, Hazbin Hotel is an animated musical series about demons trying to gain redemption and make it into heaven, a concept that will surely leave you easily entertained.
No, I am the Father.
And here we go.
That belongs in a museum!
Are you telling me that you built a time machine? Out of a DeLorean?
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
This is Sparta!
Remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Dr. Grant, my dear Dr. Sattler, welcome to Jurassic Park.
Welcome back to another episode of Easily Entertained. I'm your host, Bryson Olson, and I'm here to give you all the latest on entertainment. Today, we are talking about Hazbin Hotel, a series that I have been hugely excited for. I've been following it ever since the 2019 pilot episode that had came out on YouTube. I hadn't really followed anything about it before. I don't even think I had really heard about it before, but when the pilot had dropped, I remember seeing it on my homepage. I think I was just going through a big animation thing at the time, and I still do very often because I love animation. But I remember seeing the pilot for the first time when it was first released. I don't even think it was very long after it was released, like maybe a week tops, but I know it was during that first period. And so I've kind of been following the Hazbin Hotel mania throughout the last 5 years, including watching the Hell of a Boss show, which we will definitely be reviewing once the full Season 2 is out. I believe they're about halfway through right now. So once the remaining half is out, I'm sure we will be covering Hell of a Boss as well. But just for now, we are going to be talking about Hazbin Hotel solely. And to some people who have been watching Hell of a Boss but didn't really know much about Hazbin Hotel is actually the main series that they were focusing on, and Hell of a Boss was supposed to just be a side series that was kind of more to help fuel the main progress while they were getting approved by studios like A24 and so on. And so Hazbin is supposed to be the main series, but they've both kind of developed into their own solo series that kind of work each on their own, and you don't really need either series to like the other one, which I think is pretty great with Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss, is that the shows are created by a lot of the same people and even host a lot of the same voice actors, but they still feel like their own shows, and I think that's pretty great. And I think what primarily makes them separate is, of course, their stories. And Hazbin stories, like I said in that intro, it's about demons trying to redeem themselves. They're staying at a hotel run by the daughter of the head honcho of hell, Lucifer, and the daughter's name is Charlie, and she's trying to redeem the sinners, as they call them, all the people who were damned to hell. And so the show is kind of like a fun little taste on what if the worst of humanity, we still gave them a second chance to see if they could make it into heaven, in which the concept is actually pretty great. I think it's a good message to still give people a second chance. It's very much, hey, just because you've made mistakes or you've gone down a dark path doesn't mean you can turn back, and you can't turn back and still find your way. And I think that's a pretty good idea for the story. It's created by Vivian Madrano, or Vivzipop as she is known on YouTube. She has been making a lot of things, I think even prior to Hazbin. I think her primary series or comic series as well that she was working on was called Zoophobia. I don't know a ton about it other than a lot of the lore for Hazbin that's kind of been implemented into it, but she was an animator, and she now runs the entire team that does Hazbin Hotel, and I think that is pretty awesome. I do think with this series, especially with the first season, we do get a pretty decent story, and I think it's broken up in a very simple way. So the hotel hasn't really succeeded yet in what it is trying to accomplish. It wants to rehabilitate a demon and get them into heaven, but they haven't really established that that's possible yet. So in a first effort to try and at least convince people that it could happen, Charlie goes to the leader of the Exorcists, which is a team of angels that come down every year and wipe out a major percentage of the population of hell. And they do this as a result of overpopulation, but as you kind of go throughout the series, it is more of an example of, hey, we don't want hell to rise up and try and overtake heaven, and hence that's why they go down and kill them all. But Charlie believes that instead of that reason for overpopulation, and instead of just trying to wipe them out, maybe let's try and redeem them and see if we can just make them better people to get into heaven and just have it be a good thing overall. And I think that's kind of a fun idea. But the leader of the Exorcists decides, hey, no, we're going to kill all of you during the next extermination, and it will be even sooner than a year. It's going to be 6 months. So over the course of the season, they're leading up to that extermination, which happens at the very end of the season. And they kind of have to prepare against the extermination and even try to argue against it. They eventually get another meeting with hell and argue, hey, we have patrons that are becoming better people because they're here. Maybe we shouldn't be killing all of demonkind just because. And, they still don't really agree with that, but the concept is kind of nice that they're like, okay, let's still try and make people better, even though it may be a bit futile and they're going to die anyways. And I won't really I'll try not to reveal too much about the story itself, just because we don't want to reveal everything here. And, if you haven't seen all of it, like if you haven't seen the finale yet, I still want you to be able to go and watch it yourself. And so I'll try not to spoil too many things near the end of the season. But I kind of like that we get sort of two major plot lines in this series. Even if it's kind of a short series so far, we establish that an extermination is happening faster, and so they want to either stop it or prevent it through the means of redemption. And I think that's a pretty good idea. And then as you go through this, you have a big ensemble cast that lets you kind of explore a lot of the different different hierarchies sort of hell. They established that a lot more in the Hell of a Boss series, but more in the native hellborn species like the 7 deadly sins and so on. But in this, it's mainly restricted to what's called the Pride Ring. So after all the sins, there is usually a ring for that sin, but all sinners, usually pride is the number one sin, and thus everyone's kind of restricted to the Pride Ring, and that's where Lucifer rules. And essentially, as we're going through, we get all these characters. That kind of lets us explore little bits and pieces of the different parts of the Pride Ring. And you also kind of get to see some of the ulterior motives of the characters in the show. So it's Alistair, Vox, Lilith, Lute. You're going to kind of get some hints on things that could potentially be happening. We don't really have a lot of answers yet, once again, because the series is so short already. There's only 8 episodes, and we're still going to have to wait on a season 2. We still kind of get some hints that there are some big plans coming for the series. Although, an extermination happening and having to deal face-to-face with the angels was still a pretty big thing for season 1. It seems like they're going to try and push things even further, and I find that very interesting. I think the only real con about the story of Hazbin over Hell of a Boss is just because of time, because they only had 8 episodes in this first season, and granted, they have 8 episodes of Hell of a Boss, but also Hell of a Boss, they kind of weren't limited on what they could do, because it was picked up by A24, and then it was distributed on Amazon Prime. But Prime, I believe, I don't know if A24 really had much of a say in it, but Prime allowed them 8 episodes each with about a 25-minute runtime, and that's kind of short. And I'm assuming their season 1 was planned to be a bit bigger, a bit more grand. Even if it was 8 episodes, they maybe could have been longer episodes. But because of that, and having such a large ensemble cast, some moments do feel a little bit rushed, such as like an Angel agreeing with what Charlie is saying, or Charlie having to deal with her daddy issues with Lucifer, because we don't really have a lot of time to character develop on these issues or these connections as much. I still think they don't really come at a cost of the overall story. Yes, they feel a little bit rushed, and it's mostly a lot of off-screen character development, but I can still see a lot of where the development is coming from, even if it's not really shown to us. It's a bit more told than shown sometimes, but for the most part, I think it shows a lot of the world and what the characters are really feeling. And I think, although there's a lot of that off-screen character development, we're kind of getting the highlights is what we're shown, essentially, is how I'm picking it up. Not everyone is going to agree with me, but, not everyone is awesome like I am. But also, I've been a fan of Hazbin ever since the pilot, and so I kind of am more of a biased source. And of course, this is also Easily Entertained, where we don't really have a lot of negative things to say other than just things that maybe could be improved, but overall the show is pretty great. But on top of the story, and kind of what I think propels the story even more, even despite like some of those character things, and what kind of helps develop the characters even more, in my opinion, is the music itself. And like I said at the very beginning, it is a musical series. There's a lot of Broadway actors and actresses in it that voice the characters, and as such, you're not going to waste that talent. You're going to be making songs out of them. And because of that, that helps you propel the narrative a lot more. And unlike Hell of a Boss, which I do love a lot of the songs in Hell of a Boss, I do believe that the music in that show does tend to fall more out of place when it gets thrown on screen. It is not as seamless of a transition as this show is. And maybe it's because Hazbin was established very initially as a musical. It was going to be a musical series, hence they wrote it with more of a musical series in mind. I do think Hell of a Boss has gradually progressed into being a bit more that way, but primarily Hazbin is the musical series. But as such, each song that is in each episode, there are usually 2 songs per episode, and they each kind of add to the story. They usually provide a little bit of character development, or they give us some reasons for why a character is the way they are. And there are there are a few main examples that I think do it the best throughout the show. The first one is it starts with Sorry, and it's not actually my favorite song, but I do like the message behind it, because they have a sinner that comes to the hotel actually trying to sabotage the hotel. He gets caught, and the people that hired him think he's worthless, and so he kind of is just like, well, you can just kill me, I guess, because I failed and I obviously can't do anything right. And so it starts with Sorry is all about, of course, apologizing, and forgiveness is it's okay. You can still try again. It's okay to fail and then keep on going. And I think that's a pretty good message to have, especially when you're more early in the show. I think it was episode 2 is where that song gets played. And so that kind of allows you to propel the redemption idea a little bit more as, hey, you got to learn to forgive and be forgiven. And I think that's a really good message. And the next song that I think did really well, and this was a song that was released even prior to the show being out completely, and that was Poison. And for those who had been following the Hazbin Hotel series, like in all the lore and live streams and everything prior to the release of the actual show, there was a fan song that was eventually made into an actual music video with the pilot voice actor for Angel Dust called Addict, and this is kind of like continued. It's like the show proper's version of Addict. So Poison kind of deals with Angel Dust, who is a porn demon, and how he doesn't really enjoy being in it, and how it kind of almost showcases him being sexually assaulted and not even almost being, he is being sexually assaulted. He doesn't want to do this thing. He has sold his soul and he kind of has to do a lot of these things, and he clearly hates it. And it's a song that is very upbeat, but then you watch the actual show and you're like, oh, this is really dark, because it's how it shows it. It shows that, oh no, he's addicted to like it says, a poison. He has been given a drug by like his pimp Valentino that causes him to have to stay, and he's made a deal that he can't get out of. And it makes you start to feel a lot more for that character and understand why he is the way he is. And of course, following that song in the same episode, we have Loser Baby, which is a fantastic song. And I think probably the best message in the show is within this song is basically, it's okay to be hurt. It's okay to be knocked down. It's okay to not be your best all the time. You do not have to be a perfect person. And I think this show, that is the message that they are focusing on, is that you do not have to be a perfect person. No one has to be a perfect person. That's why everyone's in hell. And it allows the viewers and the characters to all kind of connect on this idea of, hey, you still have a second chance. You can always try and be better. And it's okay to not be the best you've ever been. Everyone's going to stumble and fall, and that's okay. And I think in a musical like this, you need songs like this that propel that kind of narrative, where you have a central idea and your songs tie back to it, and they tell your characters as well as your audience that idea, and not like just blatantly, hey, you're okay being a piece of crap. Like, sure, you could do that, but it's not going to be very interesting narratively. But having a song where characters are talking to each other, basically saying that, allows your audience to resonate with that a lot more. And I think with a musical, that's exactly what you need to be doing. Proper musicals, they tell the story with the music as well. It's not just an excuse to have fun party songs that you could play all the time. Like, although Poison kind of sounds a lot like a party song, and it's very upbeat, you kind of feel like you can dance to it, the idea behind the song is not very upbeat. It is very much a dark kind of song, similar to like, Pumped Up Kicks, where that song, the subject matter is really dark. The song, it's kind of fun. It's a pretty fun song. And, you can kind of really get into the groove of it. It's very catchy. But when you actually listen to the lyrics and understand what it's about, it's very dark. And that's very much how Poison is. And I think to have music like that that helps your narrative in that way is a smart idea. And I like that the creators had that idea from the very beginning. That's what they wanted to do. That's what Vivian wanted to do, was make a musical animated series that was about redemption. And these songs are very much, hey, you can face your miscomings. You can actually have a chance to break out of your cycle. You can always try and be better. And I do really love that about this series. And, the creators knew what they were doing. And that's something I want to talk about too. And because with this show, it's more of an independent animation. Granted, they got a lot more funding after their initial pilot, and they were able to really develop it. And they already have a season 2 in progress. They have the actors recording and everything. And I think that's really awesome. But it always comes back to, this isn't a studio that's doing this. Technically they're a studio now, but it's not like Disney or DreamWorks. It's not really a corporate entity that is deciding, hey, we want to make this show. It is an independent creator who had an idea. They created a pilot. They probably created a show Bible and everything, and they pitched it and were like, hey, we really want to make this into an actual show. And that kind of story is always super interesting to me. And I like that we are kind of entering an era where I think independent creators are being prioritized, where studios are kind of seeing that the formulaic type stuff that the really big corporate companies make is not making the most money, or it's not making the audience very happy. Like, sure, some of them will watch it, but then they don't come back for the next thing, or they review it really low, and that causes a lot of these companies to lose a lot of money. But studios like A24 put a lot of decision making on the creators, and I think that's how it should be done. Is the creators know about the series and they want to make it better. They should still be open to other ideas. I'm never going to say that collaborative ideas aren't a good thing. I think that's always a great thing, especially when it comes to movies and TV, because you want other people's perspectives, because what if someone who doesn't watch this kind of series usually looks at it and is like, this is garbage, this is terrible. That gives you a different perspective and allows you to keep collaborating. But anyways, I like giving the creativity back to the people that create. And I think a big supporter of that is YouTube. While like YouTube themselves are not really like hiring people to make these kind of shows, YouTube is a platform that gives people like this, it gives creators like this a chance to make something that can be seen. It reduces that barrier to entry, because before you had to go to, in animation in particular, you have to go to animation school. You have to maybe intern at a real animation studio. You have to go through all these different things, and it may be a lot of money, and it's not going to be able to be accomplished by everybody. And I'm not saying everybody should be an animator. I'm just like, not everybody should be a doctor. I could not be a doctor. That would be a terrible idea. I would not be able to make it through that much school. That wouldn't suit me. But creating suits me. That's why I like making this show. It's why I like making films. It's why I want to get into the industry and make bigger projects and maybe make a show like this. I think that would be really awesome. But because of YouTube, that barrier to entry has lowered. It allows people to showcase their work in a way that is seen by a lot of people. It gains a lot of traction. And if they want to pitch it like these guys did when they made a pilot and then could pitch it to different studios, the pilot that was released on YouTube that has gotten millions of views, that shows interest. And then when you pitch it to bigger studios that have the funding and could make the show a reality, having that viewership behind it is another reason why they should support you. And it's something that I think is really exciting for the industry because of that. Just because people can make things, they can make short films, they can make pitches, release them, and have a lot of people already like them and be like, hey, someone really liked this thing. Maybe we could make it even bigger. I want to make it really bigger. I have an idea to make it really big. And that it's astounding to me. I think we're in an era where we are simultaneously kind of in like the worst entertainment slump while also the best entertainment area that we've ever been in, because corporatized entertainment seems to be a little bit ridiculous at the moment, where like some things are really good and then some things are just crap, even though they put a lot of money into it. But then we have independent creators that are always trying to put their all and make things as best as they can be. They're not going to be perfect. Nothing's going to be perfect, but they embrace their imperfectness, and that allows them to continue on and showcase to people and have people actually connect with them. Shows like Lackadaisy, The Amazing Digital Circus, Hell of a Boss, these animated projects that are created by teams that just love the craft. They love to tell stories. They just want to have something entertaining. And I think especially on YouTube where it's free, it shows that it's not just about the money. And I think that's a big problem in the industry right now, is it's all about money. And yes, we run in a society where money is the main thing overall. You have to be able to live. You need to be able to pay for things. I get that. I'm not saying that we can't do things without money, because that is the case. We do have to do things with money. But I don't think money should be the primary focus when it comes to entertainment. We should be funding fun storytelling and entertainment projects because it makes people happy. It makes people feel good. Even if, they feel sad after watching a specific movie, they felt something. It allowed them to connect with something. And although that may be sadness, that does release endorphins in people's brains, and it allows them to have a human connection with people, even if that person is on a screen. It allows us to continue our society. I remember a professor once telling me that, there are 3 essential things to survival typically. It's food, water, and shelter. But they said there's 4 things. And that 4th one is storytelling. Storytelling is how our society connects. Think about the evolution of humans. We were always telling stories. We were drawing. We were being creative creatures. That's how we managed to make it so far on this earth, even if we've destroyed it slightly. Storytelling is where we thrive, and that's something I think we could continue to do if we realize the importance of it in our society. And I think independent creators like those involved in The Amazing Digital Circus and Lackadaisy and pitches like Whiplash and Vivian and Hazbin. It's creators like this that allow us to continue to produce stories and to change the industry overall. And I think that's something that Hazbin Hotel is managing to push forward, is that you do not have to be a big studio to make something amazing. And I think, we've kind of been pushing more towards that trend a lot recently with a lot more independent animation and film and things like that. But I think this is the show that is the biggest so far, I think, that has really shown, hey, anyone can be creative and be successful, and it does not have to be companies that do it. And I think that's why I've really loved Hazbin Hotel so far, and why it really makes you easily entertained. But yeah, that was today's episode on Easily Entertained. I hope you enjoyed talking about Hazbin Hotel. Before we leave, let's get our rating. If you don't know our Easily Entertained rating system, because we can't really go 1 through 10 because we pretty much enjoy almost everything here, but we do have some exceptions. So our rating from bottom to top is garbage, once is fine, right mood, quotable, go to, and all day, every day. And although I did say, the ensemble cast may not be the greatest thing for Hazbin Hotel, I cannot deny I have watched the entire thing 5 times, straight back to back, and I cannot stop listening to the soundtrack. So I do have to give Hazbin Hotel an all day, every day. And we also have our question of the week. This is to get you involved in the discussion on entertainment, and particularly usually on what we were talking about this week. So in this case, Hazbin Hotel. And because it is a musical, we got to know, what is your favorite Hazbin Hotel song? Although not my favorite, Loser Baby, I do think is the best written and fits. It's probably the best written, the best made, and just fits the narrative overall the most. But my favorite song of the Hazbin Hotel soundtrack has definitely got to be Hell is Forever. That is sung by Adam in the first episode. It is not the greatest song, but man, is it a bop. It's like that kind of almost rock and roll style. It's like about 2 minutes, but it's so much fun. And Adam, although a terrible, terrible person, I kind of love him as a character because he's so terrible, and he's just kind of funny to watch and be like, man, this guy sucks. But he is kind of hilarious, and that's kind of why I really love Hell is Forever. So that is my favorite of the Hazbin Hotel soundtrack. So go listen to it, comment, add it to the Q&A on Spotify, wherever, Let us know what your favorite Hazbin Hotel song is. And with that, we will leave you for the next episode. Be sure to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, wherever, and be sure to give us a follow so that you can be notified of whenever the next episode is out, and hopefully no more gap weeks this year that aren't that aren't already planned. But until then, we will see you guys in the next episode. Bye. You have been easily entertained.